Hey team, welcome back to another episode of Ortho Out Loud. We just wrapped up a conversation with internal medicine specialist Dr. Michael Hernandez and one of his most recent patients, Paula. Trust me, you're going to want to hear this one. We talked about sticking to your fitness goals, what to do when motivation runs dry, how to manage chronic conditions like diabetes while training, and the mindset shifts that make a real difference. If you've ever felt like setbacks were permanent or that you needed to feel motivated to make progress, this episode will flip that script. Let's get into it. Paula, Dr. Hernandez, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate this. Dr. Hernandez, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you started out, and how you got connected with Fox Valley Orthopedics?
Sure. Now, I have been doing internal medicine for a long time. I won't tell you how long, and have done it in Elgin. And Dr. Alpert and us were talking one day just about what he's doing and joining with Fox Valley, and my interest has been with more weight loss, nutrition, and healthy type of things and preventative things. Because as an internist, that's a lot that what we do. So he kind of got a hold of that, and was talking, and hey, would you be interested in joining Fox Valley with things, and just kind of took off from there. But big interest in that, something that many of my patients, or I would say the majority of my patients, I address on a daily basis.
And that is an interesting transition for us because not a lot of orthopedic offices would think about having an internal medicine doctor working with them because they want to focus more on fixing bones and joints and such. And so it has been interesting when we first heard about, an internal medicine doctor is joining your group. We're like, why are we doing that? We're supposed to be doing these other things. But it's been such a good resource for us to help our patients with weight loss, with a lot of the medical challenges that they have, as well as with bone health and other internal medicine things that we don't focus on as much, but are very important for our patients. What got you started in internal medicine?
My father was a physician, a family practice physician, and at the time when I was going to med school, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. And I spent actually some time with my father in his office, which I thought we were going to kill each other, but we didn't. And
well, I'm glad to see that.
But, I actually became interested in being kind of a people person and seeing, how he interacted with the patients and how much he got out of it, made my interest with it even more. And then when I did my rotations, is when I really became much more interested in it.
And did your father practice in this area as well?
He did. Yeah, I practiced in Elgin. He started in Huntley way back in the day, and then came out to Elgin in the, I would say, late 60s or mid 60s with that. So then I came up and joined with him in the early 90s.
Paula, could you tell us a little bit about your story, your time in this area, and what brought you to see Dr. Hernandez eventually?
Sure, I'm a long-timer. I guess they call it old-timers in
We'll
Geneva.
call it long-timer. You're not old. You're not old yet, so.
My family moved here in 1967, and I stayed. I did get to St. Charles for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then I married Mr. Geneva, so we had to move back to Geneva. I found out about Dr. Hernandez's Healthy Living program. Is that what it's called? Mm-hmm. When I got a email with a newsletter in there. And I had known that I needed to make some changes. And I'm unable to do them by myself. A friend said to me years ago, let's go to Weight Watchers. And that worked. And then she didn't go anymore. She moved out of state, and I quit going. So I need the motivation of somebody to go along on that journey with me. So I saw the Healthy Living ad, and I called, and they said they put me in touch with Dr. Hernandez, and that's how we got started.
It's interesting that you mentioned that about doing this with somebody, having a partner going along or a friend. I think we've heard that several times now from different people. Mike Alvarez brought that up earlier, and just to help my training, saying, be responsible to somebody, do this with somebody. And so it's interesting to hear you say that. And you find that with Dr. Hernandez's program that there are people there to help you out?
Yes, it's Dr. Hernandez that I'm accountable to.
He is kind of a taskmaster, so I can understand.
Whip out there.
No whip. And very kind words. When at our last appointment, I had to admit that I had fallen off track, and, he was very encouraging.
And I think that happens to all of us. I've noticed that lately with myself too. And I don't think it's helpful to beat ourselves up about that probably, but to take those lessons that we learned and try to use it to motivate us later. You work with a lot of patients, Dr. Hernandez, with varying health conditions. How do you help them start their training program? How do you keep them motivated? How do you tailor their programs given those various conditions?
I think it's one of the interesting parts, even just in medicine generally, but if people are the same way with weight, in the sense that it's everybody responds differently, and you have to talk to people, what works for them, what kind of diet works for them, what ethnicity are they, and what do they like to do as far as exercise, because some people are all out Orange Theory members and they go every day, and then there's others that, hey, I like to walk. And you work off of that, and you find what are their sweet spots that they enjoy to do, but yet they're getting something out of it. And same with their medical conditions too, because you've got diabetics, you've got hypertensives, you've got people with bad back pain or issues that they're ailments that you have to maybe treat a little bit differently with them. So I enjoy that challenge of it there, and it does make it even more rewarding, I would tell you, in the sense of how you approach it, and interesting too, because everybody's a little bit different.
Do you find that it's important then to follow up with these people to see and make sure that their health is staying on track, but as well as their programs?
Yeah, I think especially with the weight loss programs, I think at a minimum for me, and especially in the beginning, it's at least once a month that I'm seeing them. But many times, it'll be every 2 weeks with it, or a telehealth with it. So I think it's really important to stay connected, because I think you're right. It's an accountability, and it's funny. People go, I didn't want to let you down, and I'm so upset. And I'm like, all right, no, I get it. No, but that's okay, because I think we all stumble. We all have falters. We're only humans, and we got our ups and downs.
If the weather was the same every day, it would be easy,
Exactly,
right? But
right.
it's not, for sure. What advice would you have for someone who feels like their health conditions might block them from training for, say, a 5K or for anything that they might be interested in doing?
Yeah, I think you need to be that motivator that's help them get started with it. And many times, I love the support people too. Sometimes, whether that's a family member, a friend, because maybe that's sometimes, hey, I just want to go walk in the middle. Hey, will your husband or your kids or a good friend, will they go along with you? So that's one area of it. I think the other is, how limited are they? They have these chair yogas, they have Tai Chi, they have the pools, which are more buoyant, and allows people not to have those jarring type of exercises that you have to. So everybody's a little bit different, and I think taking that into consideration, hopefully, the advice that I can give them, gets them motivated, and that they can continue with it or change it up too.
What do you think, Paula? What brought you, what started your journey with Dr. Hernandez? What made you give him a call?
Well, I needed to make some changes. Weight was putting stress on my knees, and I was a little worried about my cognitive ability, and what I had read, 30 minutes of walking a day helps improve cognitive. I read that on the web, so who knows?
It must be true.
But it must be true, yeah.
And I've heard it from multiple people sitting in
Yeah.
these chairs as well,
Yeah.
that exercise isn't just good for our physical health, but also
Yeah.
for our mental and emotional health.
Mm-hmm. And, I'm not speaking properly that often. I'll look at the sky and go, oh, that's a pretty green, and my kids look at me like, what the hell's going on with Mom? And I'm like, well, what did I say? So I thought, you better get motivated, make some changes to not lose any more than I have.
So it almost sounds to me like there's the personal motivation that you had. You want to do things that are healthy and better for you, but also the social area around you where you wanted to spend time with kids or be able to communicate well with them. So I find that very interesting.
I can tell you that you do say that it does affect cognition, and I truly believe so, and I respect that. It makes people feel better too, and even the endorphins that are released when you work out, I think just makes the brain kind of gets stimulated more, you feel better, and you're right, the social aspect of it is so good with things too. So yeah, I tell my patients it's A to Z what it's going to help you with, and it encompasses everything, but it's almost the truth, to it. So.
For sure. What do you think people often get wrong about motivation and consistency?
I think people feel they get judged sometimes, and I think that's the problem with motivation, is that some people feel like, gosh, if I don't do this, people are going to think poorly of me. And that's a big conversation that, for me, it is like, hey, we're not judging you. I'm not judging. No one should judge you. You should, if you can do it, that's great. If you do it 5 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, that's great. If you have a good day and bad day, that's great. We just got to keep the bad days limited, and that's another little bit of a challenge too. How do you tap into somebody who's depressed? Or how do you tap into somebody who has sleeping disorder or insomnia? Because those things also affect that energy or that motivation or that willingness to go. So that's another thing that I'll address with my patients when they're coming in, and I know that, okay, you seem down, or you seem stressed, or you seem tired, and trying to get to the root of it, or trying to get to the part that can best help them with either, hey, maybe you need to try this, or maybe you need to see somebody, or maybe we ought to be worried about something else there. But it's a good challenge for me. Motivation's everything because it's a starter.
Paula, I understand that you're planning on participating in the Elgin Valley Fox Trot this year. Can you tell us a little bit about your training in that, ups and downs, and how you've worked with Dr. Hernandez?
Yes, Dr. Hernandez asked me if I'd be willing to participate in the 5K. And that is something I have done in the past. I've walked 5Ks. I do the Brookfield Zoo Run. In the old days, they called it the Zoo Run. So I've done that every year. And lately, I've been doing the Bat Run, the 5K in Batavia. So I usually do two. I walk 2 of those, so I know I'm able to do it. So Dr. Hernandez got me thinking about picking up my pace a little more and maybe running and walking it. And so I have been training, if you want to call it training. I've been going out walking with about 3 areas of running, jogging, picking up the pace a little bit. So I've been doing that for about 5 weeks, I want to say.
Perfect. Yeah, that's exactly.
Not every day. Not every day. I do dancing, 45 minutes of aerobic dancing, can we call it? I kind of just
Absolutely.
move. It used to be Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday I would walk and do the run. But we had some company in, and that kind of blew that schedule. So they were in for a week, so I kind of need to, get motivated again. And so it's happening. I've been walking every day this week. So.
I find with myself, even this past week at work has been a challenging one. Lots of hours, lots of problems at work, and it would make me feel much better if I could get out and do the training that I wanted to be doing. So I understand, life happens, right? And I think, like you mentioned, is like you're going to run into those little road bumps, and that's fine. But just trying to get back out there again is so important. And I think we've heard from multiple people the walk-run intervals that you're trying to do is a healthy way to prevent injury and to improve your training, for sure. So I think you're doing great in that regard. And then you have Dr. Hernandez to remind you, right?
That's right. I was asking, so what are you up to now? How are you doing along with things? I think I like the idea that you kind of said that, you had that week where you had a bad week, and now you got to come around again with that. And I'll tell you, it happens a fair amount with patients there, where they might, I don't know if you call it stumble, but, they have things that are going on in their life. It takes them off the routine. And I think that's where, routines and motivation and support people are a big help, so that you can get back on track again. And the importance is, hey, I did get back on track. And then, when she comes in, I say, all right, I heard you had a bad week, but hey, you know what? You're back on it. That's awesome, And I think that's the kind of hopeful support that we all need at times.
So this is a good time to mention I'll be out of town for a wedding.
Okay.
And there's things you can do when you're out of town. And you had also mentioned something that was very interesting to me is how you're cross-training. And we haven't really talked about that type of cross-training in the past, but I think it's 100% appropriate. It doesn't have to be cycling. It doesn't have to be yoga. Dance is certainly a very good way to work up your muscles, work on your balance.
As long as nobody's watching.
As long as you're having fun, it doesn't matter who's watching. That's how I feel about it. And what would you think that some of the differences are? We're talking mostly about little setbacks, right? Here's a week or so here where someone comes in or the weather's poor or work gets ahead of us. But some of us run into even more major stumbling blocks or roadblocks almost completely. How do we kind of get through that, would you think?
Yeah, it's interesting in that I'll get patients who will have an injury. They break a leg or they sprain an ankle or they have something that really limits them. I tell them, do you got a band? Do you got a little stretch band? Do the stretch band. If you can't get up and move, do the stretch band. Or, hey, just move back and forth. Or, hey, if you're in a wheelchair, that wheelchair to move it with your arms. Even those little things I think can help so that, when you do get back started again, you're not starting from ground zero. You're already starting to do something that maybe it's a smaller routine. Those bands you do for 10, 15 minutes, Well, that's starting to get a routine. That's a little bit of exercise. That gets your heart rate up there a little bit. So that allows you to, hey, I think I can get up and do this, if it's a week or 2 weeks with it. So the setbacks, they happen, but you can get around them by doing different things. And again, getting supported for it too, because a lot of people feel, well, I'm going to give up. Well, no, not yet. There's some things we can do here.
As long as Dr. Hernandez is around, you don't have to give up, right?
Right. I'm the eternal cheerleader. My kids get sick of me. It's like, oh, no.
There he goes again.
There he goes again.
I'm sure your 5 daughters still appreciate hearing that, even if they roll their eyes a lot.
No, yeah, they roll their eyes still, believe me.
Paula, would you agree that sometimes doing these small things can kind of steamroll into larger things?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I wasn't feeling motivated on Monday, and I thought, okay, I put off my walking today, and I'll walk at night. And so that's a bad thing for me to do, because I meant to walk in the morning, so it's really bad for me to put that off. And then I got a text from my niece that she was bringing her kids over to the park behind my house, and would I join them? And so we have a field behind the house, and Aunt Paula, chase me. And I did more running that night, and it really made me grateful that I had put off, because it showed me if I want to be an active participant in my great niece and nephew's life, I've got to keep exercising. And my niece would say, Aunt Paula needs to catch her breath now. But then I walked home with them, and we did a follow the leader. And there was skipping, and there was spinning around. And I want to be that playful aunt for the next generation. So I did more running that night than I ever had in my, what you call, training.
It sounds like you did great training for your 5K. You did cross-training at the same time.
Yeah, and the next morning I got up and got out first thing. So, which is what I like to do.
And physically, how did you feel that next day after doing all those other activities?
I felt fine. I thought, the knee might be a little sore, but no, I was okay.
Impressive. It's impressive.
And I find that memory is a great motivator for me as well. And when I say that, I say, you've done these 5Ks before, you can do that. And so the fact that you've done it once is a great motivator to say, well, maybe I'm having a hard time right now, but I know I can do this. I can kind of push it. Do you find that it helps you as well?
Yes. Yeah, this is nothing new for me. I do it every year, at least with the bat run and the zoo run. So I know I can do it. But this time I want to do it in shorter time.
Mm-hmm. So making improvement over the previous times, but understanding that, hey, I got
Yeah.
this, I can do it.
Yeah.
Do you find that with some of your patients as well, Dr. Hernandez?
Yeah, I'll tell you one of the biggest ones that you said is the kids and or grandkids. Is being able to. That's one of my mantras of trying to get people out and moving around, or if they're deconditioned or they're very sedentary, or if they're very overweight. I'm like, I will bet you, once you have those little ones running around and you want to play with them, you just don't want to play with them in a chair. You just don't want to play with them on the floor. You want to get up and be able to chase them or have them chase you, or hey, be able to think, hey, if they wanted to go on a walk or a bicycle thing, that you're there for them. And I think that's a wonderful way to help motivate people too, and go, you know what, I actually really didn't think about that. That will be cool. That will be fun. I need to do something. So I like using that one a lot with it. And plus, I think it's really true, the fact that, do you really want to be that person who is just sitting around instead of being that person who's being actively involved?
So Amina, my great niece, the first time I went to the park with them, I made the mistake of going on the playground equipment. She thought that was a hoot. She didn't have any adult who did that. And the second time we were going down, we were at a different park and we're going down the slide. It had ridges on it and my hips were way too wide. So I'm stuck at the top of the slide, because it was a wide slide with a wedge in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So two kids could go down it, not the old lady with the wide hips. And so I ended up going down kind of crooked. And she thought that was hysterical.
You were riding it side saddle.
Yeah. Well, I've done that before, and it's not that comfortable.
But again, staying active and having fun with people who are important to you.
Yeah.
Right? So important.
It's time to put our advice to the test. Join us at this year's Elgin Valley Fox Trot on June 1st. With only a few weeks left to sign up, make sure to secure your spot today. Visit elginfoxtrot.org to register. You can also use code FVO25 to save 10%. We hope to see you there.
Dr. Hernandez, I was wondering if you could talk to us a little bit today about the challenges that patients who have diabetes might face and how you help manage them.
Yeah, diabetes is huge in America, and I do get questions about that. And whether you have type 1, which you have to be a little bit more careful of because of insulin, and a little bit more knowledgeable about, hey, what is making sure that your blood sugars don't drop out, because hypoglycemia could be much worse than hyperglycemia. So the importance of having that conversation and monitoring does take a little bit of time with that. My type 2 diabetics, because weight is such a big part of type 2 diabetes, they're really educating them about how important, why it's important, and a little bit about, hey, your diet should be also considering protein, especially if you're working out, and this is where discussions have been about maybe taking in 45 grams of protein before you work out, or maybe you're going to get a protein bar or a protein shake beforehand there with things. Or if it's an extremely hard workout, maybe you want to do both before and after, depending on how you feel and what the length of that workout is. But the food aspect with diabetes and the workout of it, not that it's truly complicated, but more that you just should be cognitive of it, and watch for symptoms. Are you having symptoms of low blood sugar with that, and being prepared for that? Do I have something in the car? Do I have something on me? Do I have something in my gym bag? So just to be prepared.
What are some of those symptoms people might notice of low blood sugar?
A lot of people, it's going to be that sometimes sweating, becoming a little bit cloudy in their mentation with it, or feeling very fatigued with it and going, well, I've got pretty overwhelming fatigue with this, or hey, my energy level was really good, now it's not so good, and I feel a little bit tremulous, or I feel a little bit nauseated with this. Those could be indications that your blood sugars are going low.
Okay, and you had mentioned some different foods that people can use, like protein bars rather, or...
Yeah, protein bars. I mean, I tell them almost anything. If you get an apple slices, if you got a string cheese, or if you, I don't really like the string cheese, but if you've got more of a fruit that you can grab with it, or a protein bar with it. Shakes, now that they come in cans, are a little bit easier to access to and to take in. So it's really about having some calories, but having healthy calories, not a Big Mac or French fries, but more that you're having something that's a little that's not going to cause those blood sugars to skyrocket.
And I found it interesting, the word you used, not necessarily confusing, but just to be cognizant of it, like maybe planning ahead a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think for sure being able to say, hey, I am going to go on 5K and I didn't have breakfast. I better go grab something, or hey, this is going to be a more difficult workout because I'm going to be changing it up with it, or I didn't eat much the night before. But yeah, those are type of routines that that you're always kind of putting something in a bag, or always thinking of something before you leave the house.
That's interesting. And we had talked with Richard Wolf and Dr. Pesci a great deal about nutrition. And I think that was more general nutrition and how we should live our lives to help prevent injuries ahead of time. But you're mentioning even before and after workouts, some different things that we can use.
Yeah, I know for sure, especially I think in the exercise physiology world out there, not that I'm a super expert on that, but they talk about really having more of a protein than calorie ingestion of some type of food or drink for that, because just the way that your body metabolizes it, and the fact that with protein it will be less that you're going to demand of your muscles with it. So I don't know the exact science outside of the fact that having something prior and having something more protein than carb related is a better way to go before a workout.
And I always feel like as we're working out, we're stressing our muscles out, we're causing injury to our bodies, even though we enjoy doing it. It's good to have those amino acids, the proteins that you need in order to allow your body to have those building blocks to help it recover.
Yeah, that, and I'm sure they touched upon also just about the hydration and how important hydrating is with that for those same reasons too.
And do you find that hydrating just with water is okay, or?
For the most part, although there are a lot of places now that have electrolytes, for it too, which I'm never against, because as long as you've got good functioning kidneys, you should be fine. I think it's the people that may have underlying medical disorders that you may need to be a little more careful of what you're doing. Do you have heart failure? Are you on a diuretic? Are you having issues that maybe, your type of hydration may be a little bit different than the other person?
Sounds like you should talk to your family doctor.
That's right. There you go. There's my plug.
Sounds super important.
So is carbo loading not a thing anymore?
No, that's a great question.
I'm not a big carbo loader prior. They talk about. I used to run marathons a long time ago, but having that done the night before used to be the big rage
right.
For that. I haven't heard as much, and maybe Scott, you probably maybe know more than I do about with that, but I don't see or read that as much as it did before.
Okay, so old news then.
I think so.
Okay.
Though again, I'm not that exercise physiologist that I should be, but I'm not. I don't think so.
And I agree. I don't think most people are saying to carbo load ahead of time, and maybe even getting not a lot of carbs, but some afterwards to replace the stores that are in your muscles, the glycogen and things like that, might be important as well. And as you're going along, replacing those things, if you are training longer, I think for a 5K, maybe it's less important as you're doing about a 30-minute or an hour workout, and then you can do it afterwards. But even sometimes for our marathon runners or our long-distance people, they're doing it even more. While we're on the topic of nutrition, Paula, what are some of the changes you may have made in your diet?
More protein. Dr. Hernandez had me work with a nutritionist, and I was hydrates heavy in portion size. So my portions have decreased a lot, and I'm having more protein, more balanced plate, protein, carbohydrate. So.
Do you find that's working out well for you so far?
Yeah.
It sounds like you still have energy to play with your grandnieces.
I do. It made me aware of too much, bread, too much pasta. So now I'm doing more, chicken, and I'm not doing red meat because I was warned off that for kidney. I have a kidney stone. But I'm doing more chicken and salmon. I'm actually enjoying salmon. I'm not a big fish person, but I went out to dinner with some friends, and by golly, she ordered the salmon, and it was delicious. So I am experimenting a little more with proteins. And then I did have a protein drink because I do like a blueberry muffin. There's a family history with a blueberry muffin. So my mom made them. So when I'm feeling like I'm missing my mom, I go out and buy a blueberry muffin. But then I'll have half the blueberry muffin and a protein drink. I'll do half the protein drink. So I'm not doing as much carbs.
I bet you can make a smoothie that tastes very much like a blueberry muffin. It might be a little bit colder, not as warm. And
A smoothie seems to take too long.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I'll have to give that a try.
Yeah.
I have to give that a try. And then my daughter, who's a vegetarian, she has this protein powder, which I will sprinkle on a few things. And then I am putting tofu, the silky kind, so it kind of disappears, like in my vegetarian chili or in spaghetti sauce, meat sauce. So there's more protein there.
A great way to get plant proteins, which we've heard in
Yeah.
previous episodes, that's the best
Yeah.
way for us to have our proteins just about.
Actually, I love stir fry, so I'm putting the silky tofu in that, which I would never have done before. So I'm finding new ways.
And it's interesting that you're retrying things that in the past that maybe you thought, well, maybe this isn't really for me, and now you're trying it again and say, well, this isn't that bad. Maybe different ways to prepare things that we didn't think we would like so much.
Yeah.
Scott, I love hearing this from my patients because many times, I learn from them like, ooh, that's a good one. I'm going to have to tell my patients that one. So it's amazing what you can pick up from other people and the knowledge source, and not only TikTok, but for those of us that aren't into TikTok, that, you can get that.
Yeah,
So.
and my family doesn't even know I'm doing it. So
That's awesome.
I figured, they would. I have a couple picky eaters, and I thought, I wonder if they're going to notice. And the silky tofu just kind of blended in and looked like, in the stir fry, just looked like a vegetable. So.
And they ate it up, and they were
ate it
healthier
up.
and happier.
No complaints. No complaints.
Paula, I was wondering.
Isn't it Dr. Hernandez's time for a question?
She feels like she's getting grilled. Those lights are getting too bright.
How long were you thinking of making changes and getting healthier before you started this journey?
Before Dr. Hernandez? Many years. I'm 66, and I had my last child about 40, and I've been thinking about it for 26 years. It's time to get healthy again. Being older when you have children and being a working mom, it was really hard to find time to exercise. Then I was in a stressful job, and I became a stress eater. So the weight, I was always physically active until the birth of my children. So it was with childbirth that the weight went on. And so I've been thinking about, I was always, my mood was always better when I exercised regularly. So I wanted to get back to that. So it's been on my mind for many, many years.
I think that falls back to where I say memory is a motivator, how good you feel when you exercise. And I think it's great that you were making those choices for yourself. And you had to do things for your children, certainly, and they keep us busy, right? And but trying to find time for ourselves is so important so we can take care of those people that are important to us.
Yeah, Scott, you asked, what kind of drives some people into making that decision, hey, I got to do something. My experience with Fox Valley has been unbelievable. The number one reason that I've been finding from many patients who are coming from Fox Valley physicians and physician assistants and health professionals, is pain, or mobility. My mobility is terrible. But my orthopedist said that, hey, I really need to lose some weight because, that knee pain, that back pain is really affecting you. Your weight is really being a big part of this. So you need to lose that weight, or hey, we're not taking you to surgery unless you really drop that weight, get your BMI under 40. And as much as that's too bad, that was the motivator, I'm like, yahoo, great. I love the orthopedists when they say that, because that's a great motivator, and I'm so impressed that, we live in a world that is so financially driven that they actually take a step back and go, no, you need to get your health better. Otherwise, we're not doing this with this. So I have found that to be a big motivator and reason why people are there. And honestly, I don't care what the reason is, as long as we can get it started and going.
Yeah, and I've had patients in the past who do work on the weight loss. They do the things that we ask them to do, and then I congratulate them and say, okay, it's time for surgery now. And they say, well, I don't need surgery now.
Yeah.
And I think that's even better.
Yeah. No, I'm so impressed with Fox Valley that the orthopedist and the healthcare professionals, you've been a physician assistant, do that. It's impressive. It really is impressive in today's world, and makes my working environment enjoyment that much more.
Well, we love to have patients like Paula who are doing things to make themselves healthier for our community and such. So it's so important to us, for sure.
No pressure.
Yeah, you can't go back. You can't go back.
No more bad weeks for
No
me.
more bad weeks for you.
We need to make sure that you're around for Mr. Geneva.
Yeah. Who plans to live till 120? So we'll see.
So you have to beat him out, 121.
80. I'm going for 80.
This has been so enjoyable for me. I cannot even tell you how much I appreciate you both being here today. Things like nutrition, I find very interesting and fascinating, especially as we go to the scientific part of it. Things like training, so important, because I feel like that motivates me and allows me to feel better. But I feel like none of that can happen without the ups and downs that we know that we can go through and how to work through that. So I really appreciate you both being here. One of the other favorite things that I enjoy, though, is our rapid fire questions, which I know you have not seen the questions yet, and you certainly can opt out. You don't have to answer every question if you don't want to. But
Can you say pass?
You can definitely say pass if you want to, but I would probably cry a little tear if you did, Dr. Hernandez. But if you don't mind, those are just off-the-cuff answers, and it just gives us a little bit of insight for you both. So I'm going to start with Dr. Hernandez, and then it would be unfair if we started with you every time, though, because it gives you a chance to think about it a little bit, and so we'll go back and forth. Dr. Hernandez, what's one song that helps keep you motivated, either in or out of the gym?
Oh, God. It's out of the Traveling Wilburys, and I can't remember it right now because I'm nervous. God, I love Dire Straits, too. Oh, my God, I don't know.
You could hum a little bit if you want.
Yep.
White.
Barry White.
Oh, that's for the special times.
That's exercise, too, though, they tell me. So.
His daughters aren't listening, don't worry.
And hopefully not of my wife either. It'll be getting in real trouble. I can't think of a name. I'm so terrible with this. Gosh.
It's all right, even if push comes to shove.
All right, I'm going to go with Dire Straits, Brothers in Arms. I don't know.
That's a great song. I love that song. Paula, how about you? What's a song that would keep you motivated?
Oh gosh. Well, I like Barry White, but I'm forgetting the main song that I like. It's the one from Ally McBeal. I think you're all too young for Ally McBeal. John Cage is dancing in the bathroom.
Gosh, I don't remember that.
Dun dun dun. Dun 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 dun
As bad as Stevie
dun.
with
Yeah.
with the lyrics.
I have an excuse though. My
Yeah,
age.
right. Yeah,
That's some of that
right.
aerobic dancing we got to see right there, too. That was nice.
The first, the last, the everything. There you go.
All
There we
right,
go.
there you go.
Takes
It came down.
takes a few minutes.
It's in there for sure. Paula, what's your favorite go-to low-calorie snack?
Low calorie. Grapes.
That's a great
Grapes.
one. Yeah, get a lot of hydration.
Red grapes.
Dr. Hernandez, what would you think?
Celery and peanut butter.
That's very yummy.
I love that stuff. Man.
I like to
can
put
eat
raisins on that as well, or craisins, the cranberries sometimes. Those
nice.
are good to add to that too. Lately, I've rediscovered a food as well. I thought I'd never like nuts, but I've been eating cashews and almonds and such after some good advice, and I've discovered actually they're much better than I thought. So, Dr. Hernandez, do you prefer listening to podcasts or music when you walk?
music.
What would you say, Paula? Do you prefer
Music.
podcasts? You prefer music? Okay, well, we're going to have to start adding some music to the podcast, apparently. Although we did get some music earlier, so that's good.
I don't think you want to.
I don't know that I'd call it that.
Paula, are you an early bird or a night owl?
Night owl.
What do you think, Dr. Hernandez? Early?
Yeah.
Since I've retired,
Mm-hmm.
because I had to take that early train. So, but once I retired, staying up late.
I'm both. I'm up at 5:30 and I go to bed at around 11:30.
Okay, so you're getting at least 6 hours.
I
in,
get
so
at
that's
least 6
good,
hours. Yeah,
'cause-
I've never. When I was young, I was able to sleep, but now I can't.
So our bodies do need a little of that recovery. So
Absolutely,
we want to
no,
be
we do.
good examples
Yeah,
for
I know,
our team
right?
out here, right?
Well, you asked me to be truthful. So.
That's the most important part,
I
right?
think more protein should
More
help
protein.
that,
There
yeah.
we go. Or more celery and peanut butter.
There you go.
Dr. Hernandez, what's something you've done once just to say you did it and would never do again?
Oh my gosh. Swimming a long distance because I'm super scared of water. I'm panic of water. Like I was in Lake Geneva and I was thinking Jaws was going to get me, and realizing that there's no sharks in Lake Geneva.
Not a lot of sharks in Lake Geneva.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, mine is the water. I go into water, but I would like go into the ocean. You won't get me in the ocean unless I got like 10 vests on or something.
And maybe a cage around you too
Yeah,
for the
exactly,
sharks,
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Paula, what do you think?
I can't think of a thing that I've done that I won't do again.
I think you've made some good choices in your life then.
Yeah.
All right.
I will never skydive,
But you've never done it
but I've
before.
never done it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
still a good choice. Paula, would you say you're more of an introvert or an extrovert, and why would you say that?
Since I've retired, I've become an extrovert. And I think it's because I worked in a big office and people were talking all day. Now I don't see a lot of people in my daily life, so I'll start up conversations with total strangers. I'm sure when I shop for groceries, they're all, oh, here she is again, she's going to talk to me, so I'm starting up conversations with total strangers. But I like people, so
I think
I'm happy
that's
to
a
do
good
that.
thing.
Yeah.
What do you think, Dr. Hernandez? I think
Oh
I
my
know the
gosh,
answer to
you
this
know
question.
The answer to this, yeah. My daughters say, "Dad, you can talk to a wall," and and the truth is, I think I have. Where I would talk to a wall.
I honestly believe the wall learned something from it, though.
Yeah, I know. I hope so. I don't know. I'm not myself talking to a wall. I don't know.
Now, years ago, I went to a show and she talked to the wall.
Really?
It was a British show,
Oh,
and
funny.
Maybe you should
I'll
go
have
for
to-
that part.
Yeah, I'll have to dig that one out. Hello, wall, she would say during
funny.
the show.
Dr. Hernandez, what's your thoughts about 10,000 steps a day?
Awesome. I highly promote it, and it's one of those things that is a counter. The counter, and there's a goal that's there. So, and when you tell somebody, hey, you know what 10,000 steps is? That's 5 miles. That's outstanding. So yeah, love 10,000 steps.
And Paula, do you have to agree with him because you're his patient, or can you feel differently about it?
I don't have to agree with anybody for any reason whatsoever. 10,000 steps is impressive. I'm tickled if I get to 8.
Yeah, 8 is awesome.
Yeah.
And Paula, if you've got 30 seconds to impress someone with a useless talent, what are you going to do?
Tap dance.
What do you think, Dr. Hernandez?
Mine's an easy one. Work out in the garden, dig a hole. That's one of my better things that I could do.
Hello, wall.
My kids would agree with this, I'm telling you, and my wife.
This has been a lot of fun doing this rapid fire with you both. I truly am crying, but only because you're making me laugh so much, not because I've heard
Because you
any
want to go home, you're
passes.
tired of us.
You both have brought up very good points. Paula, what's one key that you would say for people listening out there?
Try. Don't be afraid to try. Keep trying.
And Dr. Hernandez, what would you say?
On the same line, and when you were talking earlier, what would I like to leave you with? Never give up. Never give up. So I'm with you.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's why he's my doctor.
You are in similar wavelengths. Thanks again, both. I really appreciate your time with us here. This episode was a great reminder that motivation isn't magic. It's momentum, routine, and showing up even when you don't feel like it. And I definitely notice that those times that I don't feel like it, I feel so much better afterwards. Thanks, listeners, for tuning in to another episode of Ortho Out Loud. See you next time. This podcast features insights from orthopedic specialists at Fox Valley Orthopedics. While we hope you find these discussions helpful, we are not giving you medical advice or providing opinions about your specific medical conditions or concerns. The views expressed on this podcast are not a substitute for personalized medical advice. If you have questions about a medical condition or treatment, please consult your own trusted healthcare professional. Never ignore professional medical advice or delay seeking care because of something you heard on this podcast. The views and opinions expressed by the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of Fox Valley Orthopedics or its affiliated organizations. Any decisions made based on the information provided in this podcast are done so at your own risk, and Fox Valley Orthopedics disclaims and is not responsible for any actions taken as a result of this content. If you are experiencing a medical emergency, please call 911 and seek immediate medical attention.